People said it couldn't be done. People said it needed to be reworked. Well, in this video I'm proving all that wrong. But first, I would like to dedicate the first few seconds of this video to my man Alex. He did a tremendous job on my new profile picture that you can see below this video right now. He does phenomenal graphic design work, and if you ever need any graphical design jobs, I recommend hitting him up on Instagram. He does high quality work at fair prices, and he gets it done extremely fast. So if you or anyone you know needs help with any graphical design jobs, hit him up. His Instagram should be on the screen right now. Anyways, let's jump right into the video. Hey guys, sorry about the intro. I tried to do something a little bit different, a little bit more professional. Anyways, I'm here to present my new Flak build. It's called the Cyberbully Flak, and the reason why is because it is a cyber spike Flak build, I guess. And it revolves around the cyber spike anointment, and I'll explain that later. But it is, before everyone starts clicking off, it is an extremely good build, and you know, contrary to what everyone might believe about the cyber spike anointment, it's extremely strong on Flak, and it destroys. So you'll be able to see in a second. But we're just gonna get through this intro part. I'm gonna start off with the skill tree, then move on to the gear, then move into the in-depth part of the build, and then I'll be getting to the tests. So yeah, let's get into the skill tree. Hey guys, so I'm here at the skill tree, and before I start with the skill tree, I do want to say that this build is not meta and is not like some insane build. It nukes all the enemies and it kills bosses just fine, but it is not going to be the end all be all to all builds. You'll definitely find better builds out there, but this is an extremely fun build, and it is a way to use a anointment that isn't really used that much. I do believe this will be patched if it gets big, so be wary of that. Either way, you guys should test it out. It's pretty fun. Alright, so we're just going to start. You're going to use Gamma Burst. You're going to go ahead and put 5 into Ferocity. You're not going to have anything in Persistence Hunter. Again, this is a weird build, so yeah. 5 into Ferocity. 1 into He-Bites. 5 into Frenzy. I always like to put 4 into Who Rescued Who, but you can change it up as much as you want. And then now you're going to put 5 into Barbaric Yop. Alright, that's it for the blue skill tree. We're going to go ahead and move to the, or not move, we're going to go ahead and go over the augments. So I always throw on Burst Aid and Empathic Rage. I always have problems saying that, but you're going to throw on that one. Of course, it doesn't matter what you use as long as you're not using Endurance. You don't want Endurance on this. Anyways, for your pet, I use Great Horned Skag. The only other one that's really plausible is Spider Ant Scorcher, I believe it is. Yeah, Spider Ant Scorcher. That's the only one that's the only other one that's viable. But I did do some testing, and you get more damage out of the Great Horned Skag than the Scorcher. So this is what I use. Anyways, that is it for the blue tree. And yeah, we're going on to the red tree. You're not going to put anything and leave no trace because you're really not shooting in this build. Anyways, so you're gonna go ahead and throw 5 into Interplanetary Stalker. You're going to go ahead and throw 3 into Head Count. So after you put your 3 into Head Count, you can either throw some into Hunter's Eye or some into Ambush Predator. I do Hunter's Eye at first, and then you can come back to Ambush Predator. So you need to move up the skill tree a little bit, so you can put in a little bit into Ambush Predator to move up the skill tree. And you don't want to have anything Two-Fang at all. Anyways, throw everything to Big Game. Throw 3 into Most Dangerous Game. Throw 1 into Galactic Shadow. And then for me, you have to put in 3 more when you get here to get to Megavore. So I like to do the Ambush Predator for the critical hit chance and the handling. So that's what I prefer. You can also throw 3 into Grim Harvest. And you're going to throw 1 into Megavore. Now that you have your 9 extra points, I always enjoy putting it into Furious Attacks. And I have 4 extra, so you can put it just about anywhere. I like to put 1 into Who Rescued Who for the health regeneration for my pet, and you have 3 more. You can vary it around as much as you want, but I enjoy putting it into Pack Tactics. And that's it for the skill tree. There will be an in-depth part of the video that goes over every little change you can make and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, that'll be soon. But yeah, we're just going to move into the gear now. Alright, hey guys, so we're here at the gear, and the good thing about this build is that you don't need any specific gear at all. This is a non-specific build, and you can use anything. There's only one piece of gear that I would recommend, and I'll go over that in a second. So the only catch to this build is that you have to have the Cyber Spike Anointment, of course, because this is a Cyber Spike build. So any good weapon with the Cyber Spike Anointment will go fine. I use the Maggie for if I accidentally cast Gamma Burst. I can rebuild it back up after it goes away, but I'll show that in a bit. The only gun that I would say you should try to get is an Unforgiven with Cyber Spike, because that just ups your damage so much with the critical hit chance, and with Megavore you are critical. You're doing random critical hits all the time. So critical hit chance, or not critical hit chance, sorry. The critical hit damage is just insane with the Unforgiven. Anyways, you know, just any guns you want with that anointment, it'll work fine. And the Unforgiven. Alright, onto the shield. It doesn't really matter what shield you use. I prefer the Transform because that suits my playstyle, but you can use anything. Also, there's only really two anointments you should be using with this build. Any shield you want that doesn't have a shield break or fill effect, like the Transformer per se, it does not have a effect when it breaks or when it fills up, so you're going to want to have the action skill in, and then 50% bonus elemental damage. Now, take the stopgap. When you break the shield, it goes and you get immunity, so you're going to want action skill start. You're going to want an action skill start anointment on this, and that will basically make you immune all the time, and I'll go over that in the in-depth part of the build. So yeah, if you're using a shield that has a break or fill effect, you're going to want to use this anointment. If not, like the Transformer, you're going to want to use an action skill and anointment. And I'll go over my rerouter and my stopgap. These are the two that I would say don't use this at all, because these two are bugged, and I'll go over that in the in-depth part of the video. Anyways, as for grenades, it doesn't matter what grenade you use, as long as you have the action skill and elemental damage. I like to use hexes just because they're fun, and I like the pretty effects, but anything works. Anyways, on to class mod. Cosmic Stalker, Bounty Hunter are really your only two choices here. I'm using this Cosmic Stalker right now because the weapon critical hit damage. Ideally, you should use either the Cosmic Stalker or the Bounty Hunter with weapon critical hit, weapon critical damage, weapon damage, and maybe like weapon fire rate or reload or mag size or something like that. Either way, as long as you have a Cosmic Stalker or a Bounty Hunter, you'll be perfect. I use the Cosmic Stalker though. Now onto the artifact. It is insanely good. I would recommend it. I would change it out, and I don't have it right with me right now, but if you're going to change it out, say you don't have the DLC or whatever, I changed it out for the Electric Banjo. The Electric Banjo is insane with this build as well, but I prefer the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge for that extra damage. Anyways, that's just about it for the year. Yeah, so we're about to go into the in-depth part of the build. If you don't care about the in-depth part of the build at all, there is a timestamp on the screen right now that will take you to Athenas, where we are testing it. Anyways, let's get into the in-depth part.
Hey, wanna lift weights with me?
So, as all my builds, in the in-depth part, I start with the skill tree, how you can vary it and whatnot. So let's just get started. So, the way this build works, it is a Gamma Burst, what is it called? A Fake Burst build. So, the good thing about this build compared to a Mara spam build is that with Amara, they made it to where she can't spam the Cyber Spike, right? But they didn't account for doing it on Flak, which is insane to me, but I guess it's not really that known. So with Flak, you can spam your action skill ability. So with Amara, you use your action skill ability, and you get it back, and you have to wait 2 to 3 seconds for the Cyber Spike to be cast, with Amara at least. With Flak, that is completely negated. I guess they forgot about it, and I'm sure if this build gets out there, it will be fixed. But as soon as you use your action skill, and indoors it doesn't really work that well, but outdoors you sort of want to aim to the sky, and then when you cast your action skill, it goes away, and you have a Cyber Spike flying out. And contrary to what I know Z Karma made a video on it, and I know a few other people have dissed this action skill. The way you can spam this, because you can spam it as fast as you can pull the trigger, it's almost like an insanely good crowd control Jacob's weapon. So you look somewhere where you can't be like accidentally cast your action skill. So I always aim right here, and then you just cast it, and it goes as fast as you want. And as you might be able to expect, that will do a lot of damage, and I can't really show that off until we start testing, but you'll have to take my word for it, that does a ton of damage. Anyways, so into the action skill. The reason why you don't go into Persistence Hunter, and it's a weird one, but it does make sense if you understand the build, is that when you cast Gamma Burst, you're never casting Gamma Burst with this build, is basically what I'm saying. You never want to cast Gamma Burst, and if you cast Gamma Burst, you want it to go away as fast as possible. That's why you don't put anything to action skill duration, because you don't want it back. You know, the gun damage is not worth having the action skill duration. So if you accidentally activate Gamma Burst, you want it to go away as fast as possible. And you can see how fast it's going away. Although it is slow, it is still going away pretty fast. And yeah, so that's why you don't really want to put it into Persistence Hunter. But if you do accidentally cast it, that's why I put it into Burst State. If you do accidentally cast it, you are going to go ahead and stand in the middle of the circle until you get it back, and then you're going to use your Maggie to feed back up to where you can start spamming it again. Anyways, so yeah, that's why you don't use Persistence Hunter. And Ferocity, you can do Go for the Eyes also. That's just to move up the skill tree. So as for who rescued who, I don't really care about it. Again, that's another thing that's just to move up the skill tree, but it's better to keep your pet alive because of the bonuses rather than to have the extra critical hit damage. So I put 1 to He Bites because, I'm not sure if you guys know, I'm sure if you're a Flakman you know, He Bites procs Frenzy all the time. What He Bites does is whenever enemies are shooting or damaging your pet, that your pet will reflect a percentage of that damage. In my case it's 5%, in your case if you go all the way up, and it'll be 15%, but a percentage of that damage is reflected, and that procs Frenzy. What Frenzy does is when your pet deals damage, you get stacks. I think it's 10 stacks. Yeah, 10 stacks each are 4% per stack, so you can get up to 40% extra damage, which is insane. So that's just a no-brainer. And then to keep your pet alive, Who Rescued You. Anyways, Barbaric Yop, pet bonuses, that's how I can get 15% damage and 30% gun damage. And the reason why you don't go into anything else is because you're really not trying to keep him alive. Besides that, he's getting plenty of damage, or you're dealing plenty of damage, and that lifesteal for your pet is going to keep him alive. So yeah, this is partly for the survivability of the 15% health, but mostly just because of the gun damage. That 21% gun damage, although it doesn't seem like a ton, will help in the end. Anyways, that's what I did with the blue skill tree. Going on to the red skill tree, you can use Rack Attack, but again, it's not that effective because you can't spam it like you can spam Gamma Burst, as I've shown. Yeah, so Leave No Trace. With this build, you're not shooting it that much. You're basically just casting your Cyber Spikes. So there's no point in just wasting, points into Leave No Trace when you're not even shooting your weapon that much. Interplanetary Stalker, it's just more damage. It's useful to go up the skill tree. It's better than proccing into these two things. So yeah, I use it to go up the skill tree. It's also an extremely useful ability. Anyways, Hunter's Eye, I say this in every single one of my builds. I love the armor damage and the critical hit damage because it is insane for the Wotan fight and Valkyrie fight and all that stuff. And if you're using a bounty hunter, Hunter's Eye does work. So it's insane, and I love it. Head count is same reason why you don't put anything into Persistence Hunter. You put it into head count so you can get your action skill cooldown faster. So instead of waiting there for your action skill to slowly charge back up, you do a few critical hits and your action skills back up automatically. So that's why you want that. You want to be able to spam your action skill as fast as possible. So you want to go ahead and spec into that head count. Now Ambush Predator, why do I put this in there instead of Two Fang or Leave No Trace? It's simple. Critical hit damage as well as handling. So with this build, you are going to want to use Big Kick Energy and recoil. Although your Cyber Spikes don't recoil, if you ever cast Gamma Burst, you will have to recoil, and that 50% handling is going to be insane, as well as the 20% critical hit damage. It's better than having Two Fang or Leave No Trace. So Yeah, two-fang, you're not really shooting that much, and when you do, uh, you're only doing it for a few seconds. So it's better to have the handling than critical hit damage, and it's not worth putting your points into this. Now, big game, this the hunter skill duration is insane because you are getting hunter skill duration, or you're getting hunter skills all the time, especially if you're using your bounty hunter. You have almost full hunter skill, and with the effects and the duration, it's just insane. It's a no-brainer. Yeah, most dangerous game, more damage, again, just a no-brainer. It's really good. So with Grim Harvest, you can spec into this, but I found that you will get less damage from the 3 points that you'll put into Grim Harvest than you will for 3 points you can put into Pack Tactics. So I think it's more worth going to Pack Tactics, but you can go into Grim Harvest. You just won't get as much damage. Galactic Shadow, critical hit damage. It's 1 point. It's just to move the skill tree, but it's also that extra critical hit damage. It's just a no-brainer. And Megavore. So with your spikes that you're sending out, they do have a chance to proc critical hit chances, and this is critical hits. Although they won't do critical hits by themselves. With Megavore, they will. And if you're using the Unforgiven with Megavore, you'll be hitting critical hits all the time because it is a constant laser beam. It's almost like a lump that you can spam over and over and over and over again. So Megavore is what I use. It's insane. And now for Furious Attacks, this I'd say is a must in the build, and you should always proc or spec all 5 into Furious Attacks, because when you're first casting your Cyber Spikes, you're not doing all that much damage. You might be doing like a few 100,000 every single Cyber Spike, which is it's extremely good. This is a nuking build and will do so much damage, but this Furious Attacks just helps you ramp up your build because it's not killing an enemy, it's shooting an enemy, it's damaging an enemy. So you'll proc these Furious Attacks right away, and you'll just get that extra damage, which is needed for the build. Besides that, that's why I choose these things. I recommend sticking exactly to the skill tree, although you don't have to. You can move around to your playstyle. Yeah, so now for gear, it's pretty simple. I've went over it multiple times, or I guess not multiple times, just once, but you don't need any specific gear. I'd recommend having a Unforgiven for your main weapon because of the critical hit damage, and then any weapon that can do a lot of one target, like Maggie, for example. It shoots really fast and has 6 bullets. You can get using head count, I believe it is. Using head count, you can get your action skill back up pretty fast. So just anything, a stagecoach will work, anything that's fast firing, a monarch, anything like that, it'll work just fine. I have a Maggie for my case, but anything will work. And besides that, the other two, just what you feel like. I have the yellow cake just because it's a broken weapon and there's no point in not having it, and the conference call just to freeze enemies if I ever need to, because it does have a very high freeze rate. That's just me. You can use whatever. And yeah, so besides that, I went over the transformers and I went over grenades. It doesn't really matter what you use. And then the banjo, so if you're going to use the banjo over the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge, the only thing I would say is that you're going to want to use a non-shock element grenade or shield if you're using one already, because all your shock damage will be coming from the banjo anyway, so you really don't need it. And if you guys don't know what the banjo does, it makes chains of lightnings everywhere, which is extremely useful. Excuse me. If you guys don't know what the electric banjo does, it makes chains of lightnings go everywhere, and it's just extremely useful. So that will strip down all shields, and I'd recommend not putting on shock on this and putting on, I don't know, maybe incendiary and corrosive, so you have all sorts of elements. Anyways, that's basically it for the in-depth part of the build. There's only one more thing I want to go over, and it is my mayhem modifiers. So big kick energy, literally the only reason is because of the gun damage. Although it's not a lot of gun damage, that 25% is helpful, and you don't have any recoil with the cyber spikes, so there's no downside in using it. Healy Avenger, it does absolutely nothing. Like, it is a terrible, terrible modifier for the enemies, so I use it. Chain Gang, you're not really getting close to the enemies, so that really doesn't have any effects. And when you do get close to enemies, I would just say whip out your yellow cakes and shoot them. They're dead. So, you know that. And the dazed and confused, you could change that out, but I really don't find much need to. You can change it out to whatever you really feel like it. But the cyber spikes do kinetic damage, so even with dazed and confused, it's not really helping them all that much because cyber spikes do kinetic damage. But yeah, besides that, that is my modifiers. Of course, this is MH10, so I will go ahead and run to Athenas now, and I'll show off the build. I'll meet you guys there. Alright, so I'm here at Athenas, and as I do with all my builds, I'm going to show you guys how to use the build, and I'm going to mute myself when I actually go into battle. So, I'll go ahead and show off just a little quick example. It's really simple once you understand the build. All you're going to do is, you see an enemy, and you're going to want to aim a little bit above the ground, because if you look like straight at the ground, you will cast Gamma Burst, and that's not what you want to do. So you want to look a little bit above the ground, and don't worry, because the cyber spike has a large radius. It has a large area of effect, so it will hit them no matter what. And you're just going to want to hit the whatever button is to activate your action skill. You just want to spam that as fast as you can, and that is going to spam the cyber spikes, as you can see. And that's basically it for the build. I mean, you know, it's simple as that. As long as you have your Unforgiven out and you're spamming it, you're just like, you're golden. So before we get started, and I did not say this in my in-depth part of the build because I forgot, and so I guess it's good to tell everyone, the reason why you don't want to use the transformer or the redistributor, or sorry, not the transformer, the reason why you don't want to use the stopgap or the redistributor is because they're bugged. The stopgap will not give you invulnerability forever. I guess they thought about it, and it does not give you invulnerability forever. It gives you invulnerability for 5 seconds, and then all those things after those 5 seconds that you've casted do not stack. They cancel after the first 5 seconds. So theoretically you can have invulnerability for a lot of the time, but it's not going to be forever, and it's going to end up sabotaging you more than it's going to be helping you. So I recommend using something more like an old god or a transformer or something. And the rerouter, and I'll show that really quick just right now because it's super easy to show, is you see I have an amp shot right now. So I shoot it, and then if I use my action skill, I should have an amp shot, but I don't. And the reason why is because, I'll do it again, you saw really quickly at the very start, and I'll slow down the video once I do this. So I'll slow down the video right now. So I'm not sure if you guys saw there, I tried to slow it down as much as I could. It pops up for a second, you know, the rerouter. It pops up for a second and then it goes away. And I'm not sure why, I'm not sure if it's bugged or what, but it just doesn't work as intended. I'm not sure if it's the same thing for the one-shotter or what, but it just doesn't work for me. So I don't use them. And yeah. Hey guys, so if you're wondering why I'm back here, it's because I accidentally casted my you know, thing right at the start, so I wanted to get a completely unbiased showing. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself, and I'll meet you guys at the other side.
Thrill of the hunt. You are brave. This is the way of things.
Alright, so that was all the enemies, and you can see just how much this will shred. Of course, you can aim as far as up in the sky as you want, and you guys saw just there how far of a range these actually have. So don't let's know what people say about how terrible this anointment is. It is a broken anointment as long as you have the correct build. So I'm gonna go ahead and go against Trant, and you guys can watch me destroy him. So I'll meet you guys there. Hey guys, so I'm here at Trant, and I'm going to be doing 2 runs. So the first run will be with just the Maggie, and the second one will be with the Unforgiven, to show you guys the differences between the damage between not using the Unforgiven and using the Unforgiven. So we're just going to start. This is with Maggie. And it's it's nothing to snuff at, you know, like even with the Maggie, which is not the intended weapon you should be using, especially not for bosses, it still does pretty decent damage. It's a little bit longer than you would want with MH10, but considering that it is a completely, well, what people say, terrible anointment on MH10, it's doing pretty good. Anyways, so I'll go ahead and go to the Unforgiven, and I'll let you guys see that. Hey guys, so I'm here at Trant again, and I'm going to be using, like I said, the Unforgiven, and we'll see how this works. So, due to the Megavore in my build, the spikes can actually crit. So with the Unforgiven, the spikes critting with Megavore, it's an insane combo. So we'll just start going. And you can see, when you start hitting those crits, it is just instant death, and it's at least 2 to 3 times faster than how it was with whatever it's called, with the Maggie. So yeah, that was the build. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys want the build and you're on PlayStation, go ahead and add me. My name is Slowbrew. You can see it on the top right corner. My name is Slowbrew, but instead of an L, it's an I. And yeah, again, make sure to go check out my man Alex. He does tremendous work, and he'd really appreciate it. And yeah, besides that, I hope you like the build. Leave a like if you liked, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.